We made it tougher on ourselves now, and this will make it even sweeter. Show our character, show our resolve, and know we missed a golden opportunity, but for 3.5 quarters, outplayed them. Got a little stagnant at the end offensively and gave up some big threes late, but overall, the game that shouldn't have been that close.
Throughout the season, you try to win every game you play, and Friday night is not going to be any different. Tonight was tough. There's no way around it. It was a tough loss. It's how you respond, how you bounce back. And I'm sure, we're going to be ready on Friday.
We know we did it to ourselves. Nobody else, we take the blame. But now, that's it. We got to turn around and go right back at it. We ain't got time to soak. We ain't got time to put our heads down. It is what it is. On to the next one. Just move on. They did to us what we did to them the last game at their place, so we just got to come back out and keep swinging. We got to fight back, and that's just what it is. We don't have time to worry about how we lost. We ain't got time to worry about, we lost and right now and it hurts. Got time for that, so it hurts. It definitely hurts, but we ain't got time to feel it. We got to go on to the next one, and really it's simple. If you're not ready to come play the next game, then don't step on that court.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast, and I can barely muster the enthusiasm to do the intro, Chris Gasper, because the Boston Celtics in a pivotal Game 5 against the Milwaukee Bucks just endured a stomach punch like no other. So let's just start there. What's your biggest takeaway as you digest the Celtics kicking away as much as I believe is a 14-point lead?
14-point lead with 10 minutes to go, Forsberg. I mean, I think they sort of played around with the game a little bit, and when you do that against a championship team, you open the door. I think you look at the box score and you still sort of look outside of, offensive rebounds, which were huge for Milwaukee with 17. And they did nail all their threes in the fourth quarter and they shot well from three. But every other category is like the Celtics. They had more points in the paint. Even though Giannis scored 40, they shot a better percentage. Overall, they had fewer turnovers than the Bucks and they still lost. So a little bit of fluky stuff. But I think, again, that can happen when you mess around with the game. I think they sort of relaxed. They thought they had it won. Guys were going for kind of the offensive knockout punch. Jaylen Brown said, Chris, that they sort of got away from what they had been doing offensively in that fourth quarter. And I felt like everybody, Jaylen, Jason, Marcus, was looking to deliver that signature knockout punch and, look at their hand and,
blow some kisses.
Yeah, blow some kisses to the crowd. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's a close game and Milwaukee weaseled their way out of here with the win.
It's really remarkable, and I can't shake this notion. This is now 2 of the last 3 games that the Celtics have pretty much had a victory in hand in the final minute, and were not able to get to the finish line of it. And so much of what I worried about coming into this postseason was their ability to win crunch time games. And against Brooklyn, they were great.
They were great.
Even in instances against the Bucks, they've been great. Is there just something about the makeup of this team that, for whatever reason, in those big moments, they sort of either regress to what we saw during the regular season, or they just don't have it in crunch time minutes?
I think sometimes in crunch time minutes, Chris, they don't show the same trust in each other that they show in other moments. And it's not trust in terms of, I don't like you or I don't think you're a good player. I think it's more like everybody wants to be the guy who does it, the guy that everybody points to. And maybe guys sort of get away from certain roles. I mean, I thought it was interesting at the end. And look, this game certainly was not on Marcus Smart. He had his moments. It wasn't his fault. But at the end there, I sort of thought it was interesting that the last 2 possessions were Marcus Smart turnovers. And it's one of those things where, again, he's in a little bit of a tough spot. Ime admitted the play broke down on the penultimate possession, and Marcus is trying to make a play. But it's also sort of like you and I were talking, he goes baseline there, he adds an extra defender, and maybe Jaylen Brown is a little late to cut to the hoop, but he's cutting and he's there, and Smart's not even looking. He's just like, I'm going to shoot this and give us the lead. So I think there's kind of like a trust factor, and the hierarchy and the roles get a little out of whack sometimes for them late in these games.
I watched that play over a bunch of times in the aftermath. The few things that stand out is in the moment I said to you, Ime's mad at someone.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was Jaylen, if it was something on the opposite side. And my instinct was it was Jaylen because he didn't cut hard enough down the middle of the court. Watching the replay, I don't even think Smart could have threaded the ball there. Drew Holiday does an amazing job clogging it up instantly. Scal pointed out to me, there has to be someone in that opposite corner so that Marcus can at least throw the whip around and give an outlet in that instance. And what happened was Horford came to set a down screen for Tatum, and for whatever reason, they were just too slow to get into it. And Marcus saw no defender at the rim, and just try to accelerate. And look, that's why Drew Holiday has a legitimate case for why he's one of the better. And so, but who do I need to be most mad at for like that play aside? Just the entire breakdown of the fourth quarter does Ime sit down all of them and make them feel bad, or is there someone specific you want me to direct my anger
No,
towards?
I don't think there's anyone specific. I think
that's no fun.
No, but I mean, I think they built the lead as a team. I was looking at it at halftime of the game, and even I looked at this in the box score after the game. If you had told me before the game, Chris, that Daniel Tice and Derek White were going to shoot 9 of 10 from the field for a combined 20 points, I'm like, the Celtics are winning this game
by a lot.
And so, if you had told me that the Jays and Marcus Smart were going to combine to put up, I think it was like 75 points. I'm pretty sure, I'm not great at math. I think it was 75, 34, 26, and whatever. Yeah. If you had told me that, I'm like, they're going to win this game. So, like, everybody was doing their thing. They're taking their turns. They're up. I'll be honest. If I had to pick out one person for this, I'd put it on Ime.
Ooh,
I'll tell you why.
That is a spicy take. All right, go ahead.
I'll tell you why. And look, he's been great all year. I think he's been great in this series. I think he maybe got a little too cute in the fourth quarter and a little too comfortable with that lead. And I feel like he sat Jaylen Brown for too long.
Fair.
And by the time Jaylen Brown was cooking in the third quarter. And by the time he brought Jaylen Brown back, he was pretty much like ice cold. Now, look, you can put that on the player. That's legitimate, too. But it was interesting listening to Jaylen Brown after the game. He was very respectful, didn't say anything negative about Ime, but he did admit, I would have liked to have come in the game a little bit sooner. And just his body language after the question, which I did ask, was sort of like a little bit of a head nod, when I came back in, I didn't have the same rhythm.
I think that's natural, though. Like, you're a player, you had a good third quarter, you're naturally, in hindsight, if they salt away that win, Jaylen Brown's not up there saying, I wish I came back a few minutes earlier. It's more like, I wanted to preserve and be ready for game 6 and all that. But I agree.
You can't count a win before.
No, 100%.
You can't be like, we were going to get ready for game 6. Like, I was looking at it, too, when he came back in, this is the playoffs. He'd only played 27 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like,
which is nothing when Al Horford's playing 41 minutes a night.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
So I agree with you in this. And it was so funny because we sort of said, me, you, and Scal were sitting there and we said, what needs to happen in the first 3 minutes of this quarter?
Yeah, he nailed it.
And he was like, Tatum has to take the baton. And he really didn't. He had an okay quarter by the numbers, 4 of 8, I think, and carried most of their scoring. But it never felt like he impacted the fourth quarter the way he had to. No defensive rebounds. The assists only a couple. And maybe that's on the teammates too. Maybe just there was only so much that he could do. But then Jaylen comes back in, and there was some rust. And I think there was a turnover off the first, and he just didn't look like himself. And
bad turnover by Jaylen Brown. He and Smart had a miscommunication, but it was one of those no-look passes. It's like, okay, I know you think the guy should be there, but he's not there. You can't throw that pass. Yeah, that was bad. That's the other thing I'd say, too. Even though overall turnovers, Milwaukee had a few more than the Celtics, in that fourth quarter, there were just too many squandered, wasted possessions. At the same time, you're giving the Bucks extra possessions.
5 turnovers for the Celtics in the fourth quarter, leading to 10 points after they'd given up 5 points on 5 turnovers. Before that, to me, this is the most criminal part, is that throughout the series, I've felt one thing. It's that if the Celtics have been able to take care of the basketball, the Bucks have not been able to consistently score in the half-court set. Their net rating for the series, or their offensive rating for the series, is way below 100 in the half-court. And honestly, if you feel like if you just get to 100 points, you should win the game. But they don't, because the Celtics have had too many instances where they shoot themselves in the foot, allow transition, allow Giannis to feel good, give him a transition Giannis 3, whatever the case may be. And we're left now here where we're thinking this season is on life support as they start to go to Milwaukee.
I mean, it's really interesting when you look at it. I mean, that's such a great point, Chris, because if you look at the guy who ended up scoring basically, the go-ahead points, the winning points in this game was Bobby Portis. And Bobby Portis had 14 points on 14 shots. Which means to get to the 14 points, he had to have those opportunities. And he got those second chance opportunities, and the Celtics gave up too many of those. The one thing I'd say about this, though, just the last couple of years in general, the Celtics major in making it hard for themselves. That's what they major in.
It's not the thing you want to major in.
It's not. But, I mean, it's weird to say. I don't think this is that unusual a situation for them.
Sure.
And maybe another team, I would feel like it's more dire. Now, look, no team in this series has won back-to-back games. They have to do that or their season's over. I understand that. But at the same time, would it surprise me if they won both of these games? It really wouldn't. And I still think the Celtics are the better team, the more balanced team. To your point about Milwaukee in the half court, you're absolutely right. I feel like the Celtics score easier than the Bucks. I mean, a lot of times for the Bucks, outside of Giannis and Holiday, it feels like trying to get blood from a stone to just put the ball in the basket. So I look at this series and I'll say this, we obviously feel after game 5, the Celtics gave one away. If they lose this series, I feel like they gave it away. After watching this many games of this series, no disrespect to the Bucks, heart of a champion, really appreciate it, but they're undermanned, and without Chris Middleton, they just don't have the firepower. If this series goes Milwaukee's way, it's not that they won it, the Celtics lost it.
I love that Will Ferrell one. He's like, with all due respect,
All due respect.
then you trash somebody.
Rodney Harrison.
I said with all due respect.
Yeah. No disrespect, but you don't know what you're talking about.
But
I've heard that many times.
I do 100% agree. You can't have that often, but people are very nice to you when they come up to you.
No, I'm saying Rodney Harrison might cover the Patriots. That
nice.
was his pet line. He would say to us, he'd be like, no disrespect, and then immediately disrespect us. Because he's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. So.
Wow, that's great. Well, but it is weird because I do agree. I think the Celtics have been the better team in this series. Without Middleton, it's clear that they have an advantage, and yet I can't help but think if they can't figure out a way to kind of rally right now, that we're going to look back and be like, man, missed opportunity. And these opportunities just don't come along. And I think that's going to be the maddening part for Al Horford for going out there and playing 40 minutes in this series and being as good as he has been. And he knows that it's not forever now. And he's always wanted to be in the finals and all that. It's hard. So let's end on this. What has to happen? Is it as simple as go take care of business in Milwaukee and then figure out Game 7 after that? Like, how do they have to approach this Game 6 going up to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to approach this like they need to put their absolute best product on the floor and find a way to win by any means necessary. That means if it's a rock fight, they have to win that game. And I feel like most of the rock fight sort of games in this series have gone Milwaukee's way. Like, even Game 4, which was a little bit of a rock fight until you shoot 84% in the fourth quarter. When it's pretty and free-flowing, that's the Celtics game, and that's when they're at their best. But they might have to go to Milwaukee and just sort of win a rock fight with the number 1 defense in the NBA. And that's how they might have to do it at the end of the day. I will say this. I do feel good about the Celtics, moving forward still in this series. And I think if this series comes back to TD Garden, they're definitely going to win Game 7. If the Bucks don't win this in Game 6, they're not winning it.
And ultimately, I think you made the best point. I tried to end it with our Celtics post-game live coverage by trying to offer some ray of optimism. Nothing has come easy for the Celtics this year. And, when we sat there in January and we were ready to trade the team and they're 3 games under 500, I could not have envisioned getting to this point. Expectations have gone up exponentially, but besides maybe the Brooklyn series, like nothing has come easy for this team. So we'll see if they can rally, find a way to get to the finish line. I do have to. I'm going to ask you the hard question. I don't want to put you in a bad spot by suggesting that it ends. If it ends, if this ends in 6 or 7 or whatever, how will we look back on the 21-22 Celtics?
Wow, that's a really tough one. Well, first of all, I want to ask you a question. Are you enjoying the ride?
I did say I wanted to enjoy the ride.
You did. Are you enjoing it?
You know what? This ride has been a lot for me. It's the travel.
It is exciting.
It is exciting. You know what? I didn't think my expectations would get out of whack, and then they did. And
that's natural.
And I think, as I've tried to stress to everybody, I think in the moment it'll be a disappointment, no matter how or where it ends, right? Except for if they're raising banner 18.
Yeah.
But certainly like that first round series and the way the end of the season played out. Man, I wanted to enjoy the ride, and now screw it. I'm just as invested as anybody else.
So to answer your question, it's hard, right? Because this is a tough thing to say, but I'm just going to say it. I feel like if they lose this series, and I know it's Giannis, 2-time MVP, NBA champion, but again, with them not having Middleton, who's like a Celtic killer, if you lose this series, like to me, it kind of invalidates like the last 3 months. If you want to sit here and show me these 3 months and the sample size and the net rating and you're killing teams and you're plus 15 in all these games, and you smoke the Nets and you make them look bad, you make KD look just like an ordinary player, and then you're in this series and you kind of give it away. I don't know. I look at that, and that's a major disappointment to me, and it sort of invalidates in some ways the last 3 months. And I wouldn't want to be Brad Stevens then having to make long-term decisions based on this team. I think that's really tough. You can make a case either way. Just stay the course. Look at how well we played. We gave a series away. Or you could also look at it and say, man, I've had these 3 guys, and they've gone to 2 Eastern Conference Finals. We should have gone to a 3rd. We didn't get there. Is there just something that's missing? Is there just something with that mix that I have to change? And again, I don't envy him in that. I probably would, to be honest, lean toward the latter and be consistent in what I've been consistent about all along, which is that I would maybe take a look at Smart and trying to capitalize on the great season he's had. That doesn't mean I'm putting all the blame on him. I'm not, but I'm just saying, is there something there from a chemistry standpoint, or just because he's the longest tenured guy, or whatever it is, where maybe there's just a better long-term fit. And I think you'd have to consider that if they lose the series. But I'm not just saying this, because
Right.
I'm on the NBC Sports Boston Celtics Talk Podcast and I'm putting on the green glasses. I do still feel good about the Celtics in this series. I really feel like they can win this game in Milwaukee. And if it comes back here, I would be even more stunned than tonight if they lost Game 7.
Well, first off, I think that whole diatribe you just went on was an attack on me and everything. I
No,
believe.
it was not an attack. I didn't say
kidding.
anything about Rob Williams. We didn't even mention they didn't have Rob. I mean, that's the other thing. What if Rob comes back?
Yes. Well, I hope that they need him on one free throw tonight. That could have salted away that game, and so I will be left rubbing my Rob bobblehead at home, hoping that he can get back out there for Game 6 or 7. That sounded awful, boy. But if you have any complaints about what Gasper said about your team, it's cgasper@globe.com. All right, and everybody go like, subscribe. I'll catch you up in Milwaukee, and we'll see you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.